So the director of Origin of Animal, a man by the name of David Keller, has been wanting to do a collaborative performance between Origin of Animal and Heisenberg Uncertainty Players for a while. And he also had been kind of kicking around this Mingus show idea. And I'm not sure exactly at what point those two ideas merge, but he approached me earlier this year with the idea of doing a joint performance built around Mingus Centennial, and specifically around this album, Let My Children Hear Music. He had gotten access to transcriptions of the original scores from the album. And so what we did is we took the scores and the recordings and made expanded versions for the combined group of about 40 musicians.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, chicagojazz.com, and welcome to another Around Town. And this week we have John Dorhauer with us, and I think I pronounced your name correctly. I always sometimes screw it up, sometimes I don't, John, but you play along with me, so you're very
You did great.
All right. And of course, he is the I think one of the founders of the Heisenberg Uncertainty Players. And they have an incredible show coming up along with another group that we're going to talk about, but they are going to be performing at the Unity Lutheran Church this Saturday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. They're doing a Mingus Centennial performance, and they are going to be joined by, who are you guys being joined by?
Origin of Animal. They're a chamber orchestra / rock group / nobody knows, kind of this weird hybrid group. They're weird like us, but Origin of Animal is going to be performing with Heisenberg for a joint performance.
Yeah, and you guys are actually, so you're going to kick it off. You guys are going to be performing, and you tell me when I'm wrong, but I was going off your press release, but you guys are going to be performing music that is inspired by Charles Mingus. And then Origin of Animals is coming on, and then they're going to do their own take on some Mingus tunes. And then you guys are both getting together to perform the complete recording, Mingus's complete recording from 1972, Let My Children Hear Music, which was one of his favorites and something that I think that he thought was one of his finest works. And this is all based around, because this is obviously the centennial year for Charles Mingus. And I should say one other thing, tickets are still available. We've got them linked up at chicagojazz.com. And of course, you can get more information at Heisenberg on huplayers.com. We'll send them over to huplayers.com as well. All right, so let's talk about this show, because you've got like over 40 musicians involved in this thing on Saturday night at the Unity Church. So how did this whole thing come about? Who conceived of putting both groups together and performing this entire album?
So the director of Origin of Animal, a man by the name of David Keller, has been wanting to do a collaborative performance between Origin of Animal and Heisenberg Uncertainty Players for a while. And he also had been kind of kicking around this Mingus show idea. And I'm not sure exactly at what point those two ideas merge, but he approached me earlier this year with the idea of doing a joint performance built around Mingus Centennial, and specifically around this album, Let My Children Hear Music. He had gotten access to transcriptions of the original scores from the album. And so what we did is we took the scores and the recordings and made expanded versions for the combined group of about 40 musicians, like you said. And so over this past year, we've been working along with a man named Aaron Wright, who's a member of Origin of Animal, also does some work with Muka Patsa, writing for them. And the three of us kind of worked together to shape the original scores, expand them, make modifications based on what we heard on the recording and what we knew our groups wanted to do with them. But it's a fairly accurate depiction of the original album, at least as close as we can get with the combined group.
Well, I'll tell you, you always astonish me, because, we've talked several times with the different projects and different performances you do. And I mean, you always do these, to me, massive undertakings of like this stuff, because this doesn't sound like a light thing that you're doing. And I remember talking to you in the past, and you've arranged and recorded and arranged and performed like full pieces, full other albums. I mean,
Mhm.
for an 18-piece big band, for a 16-piece big band, all different configurations. And so talk a little bit about, I mean, how do you even go through the process? I mean, there's three of you working on this. And to me,
Yeah.
that might be easy, or it might make things a little more confusing too, because who's working on what and what's going on, and how is this whole thing going to meld together so it sounds like one cohesive unit, right?
Yeah. So early on, we decided who was going to spearhead which of the 8 tracks from the album.
Yeah.
And so the first step in the process was getting the original scores into Finale. And David and Aaron and one of the other members from Origin were mostly spearheading that as far as like rote copy work. And then David, Aaron, and myself each took a couple or a few tracks from the album and then took those Finale scores and then expanded them, made modifications again based on what we heard from the recording. And so we were each kind of working independently on our own arrangements. But then once we would get to a draft stage, we would then upload them and share them and then take feedback from the others. So they might miss, or they might catch something that we missed editorially, or like something that they heard that we didn't quite hear. So we had some fresh eyes and ears on them at different points in the process.
How many?
And so it was very helpful having those other
Yeah.
collaborators to work with, even though we weren't working directly with each other through the
I was going to
process.
say, I mean, how many times have you guys had to rehearse this as the full unit, or has each group rehearsed it at least? And I know we talked before we came on, you guys actually got together, and the both ensembles got together and performed, well, rehearsed in the space recently. But I mean, this is an undertaking. I mean, how often is Heisenberg Players rehearsing?
So both groups together are only going to have 2 rehearsals. We had one of them. We've got another one coming up this week, and then obviously the show on Saturday. And so one of our challenges as we were going through and working on the charts was making sure that we were writing and presenting everything in a way that could be read as easily as possible, because we knew we weren't going to have a lot of opportunity to rehearse. I mean, when you have 40 musicians, you're lucky to get any time together, let alone 2 rehearsals and a gig. And so we knew that was going to be a challenge. We knew that was going to be a limiting factor. But that's something that we were aware of. And so making things as clean and readable as possible. And we set our goal with the first rehearsal to read down everything and do just minimal polishing. And we were able to do that. So like we were able to get through beginning to end on everything. And so it helped having that in mind going into it.
Oh yeah. Now talk a little bit about the recording. I mean, why did Charles Mingus think that this is one of his finest works? I mean, why did he pick this? Or I don't know if he ever mentioned why, but I mean, why do you think he picked this?
So, and admittedly, I don't know all of Mingus's canon. Now that we've gone through this project, I'm starting to go back and dig into a little bit more detail and some of other stuff. But I think this is probably certainly among the most expansive pieces of music that he put together. If you think of the album as a whole as its own collective large-scale composition, the writing in the orchestration is very intricate all the way throughout. But it's using not necessarily a full orchestra, but a full palette of instruments. And he's certainly conceiving of the music more orchestrally. And as best I can tell, Mingus wrote the music and then he worked with orchestrators and arrangers. I think Cy Johnson and then Alan Ray for the 2 main ones from the project. And so to the best of my understanding, Mingus would write the basic idea for it and then would work with these collaborators to expand it. And so I think it's also perhaps a more fully realized compositional product than he had often created for his recordings. But each track is very different, but it all is still cohesive as a whole. And so it kind of strikes this really interesting balance of being kind of in the moment, yet fully realized and written through and composed.
Yeah. Well, what's the significance of the title? Do you know? Let My Children Hear Music.
I don't. I'm not sure if it's a reference to something, more just like the general aesthetic that he was looking for with it. But no, I don't know the backstory on the
If
project
somebody
yet. Yeah.
watching this actually knows, because John and I would be curious as well, leave
Sure.
a comment down below, because it would be interesting to know. It's such a unique title. It's almost like Let My Children Hear Music, and the way you're describing it, it's very expansive. A lot of his ideas were expanded out into this size of an ensemble. So maybe that's how he meant, let my children hear music, like all of this music or something. But what do I know? I'm just a drummer with a video show. So, all right. So, well, this sounds like an incredible project. Of course, there's a $20 donation suggested. We've got all the links linked up below. I know there's still tickets available. It's Saturday night, 7 p.m. It's at the Unity Lutheran Church, which is 1212 West Balmoral in Chicago. Origin of Animal and Heisenberg. I always screw this up. Heisenberg Uncertainty Players. I always
you got it.
Uncertainty Players. I don't know why I'm so difficult with that, but anyways, Heisenberg Uncertainty Players.
It's a mouthful. That's on us.
And of course, their website, huplayers.com. We've got it linked up on chicagojazz.com. And man, what a show, what a concept that you guys came up with. And it astonishes me all the time, because I see a lot of different things all throughout the country, but it seems to me like the Chicago music scene, especially the jazz scene specifically, between the Fulton Street Collective that they have going on over there, and ensembles like yours, putting these things together and celebrating the music, where all of this music came from, and actually recreating it in its form and keeping it alive, while you're also pushing the boundaries. I just don't see it happening that much often in other cities in such a regular basis. So I think Chicago's got we've gotten very lucky, and we should be all very happy that somebody like John and his ensemble and everybody are doing something like this. And so get out there on December 3rd and check the whole thing out. So John, thank you so much for being on today. Always good to see you. Hopefully I will see you in person at some point soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure, and I appreciate all the work that you do to support not only my projects, but everybody in Chicago, and the great work you're doing to bring awareness to people here, and the great work that we're doing. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Of course, I appreciate all of you watching and checking us out. Of course, all the information on chicagojazz.com, and we've got more Around Towns coming up very soon. We've also got a membership, gold membership. It's free. Sign up below. We're giving tickets away, giving tracks away. And if you're not in the membership, you don't get it. So it's free. So sign up on that link below. John, again, thank you. And I thank all of you for watching. And hopefully at some point, I will see all of you somewhere out on the scene.